Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Food, Wine, and Whiskey in Your Own Backyard. I am your host, Rob, and we have a fun show in store for you today. I am on location with my lovely wife, Sandra, and we are out visiting with Adega Vinho Winery, and we have Michael and Andrew Bilger. Am I saying that correctly?
That's correct.
Okay. You guys nice enough to come on the show and let us talk a little bit about Texas wine, but we definitely want to make your winery the star of tonight's show because you guys are doing some fantastic things here.
Thank you.
We came over I guess it's been about 2 months ago. Is that when we first met you, Andrew? And we're just so impressed, and we thought it would be a lot of fun to have you guys on the show and just kind of let all the listeners kind of get some background on what you guys are doing and then kind of talk about Texas in general and
cool.
what's going on in the region over here.
Great.
Let's start with a little bit about both of you all. You know, a lot of times people hear new winery and they think, well, they must have been wine guys. They must have worked at a winery or the family's in wine or something like that. But I found out from you that's not the case.
No, we just drank a lot of wine.
And if you're going to drink a lot of wine and it costs money, you might as well make your own.
That's exactly correct.
There we go.
We were thinking of ourselves.
Okay. So how did that happen? What's the story there? And let's get about this close.
Okay, yeah. So, it's kind of a cliched story, but it's true. I wanted to make wine since I was about 17 years old, and Michael and I spent a great deal of our summers as kids in California, out near Yosemite, California. And one of my favorite things to do was go to the coast. And so I went to Morro Bay and Los Osos quite a bit during those summers. And going over there, you had to go through Paso or you had to go through Atascadero, depending on how you went to those two locations from where we lived. And it was just something that I saw. You drove through these beautiful vineyards on these little two-lane county roads, and it was something that inspired me, planted the seed, so to speak, to do something with grapes and wine, and I just thought, I knew I would never be a corporate guy. My father was a corporate guy, and at a very young age, I realized I would never be able to do what he did, and so that kind of planted the seed, went to college, got a degree in botany, with the idea that I'm going to go grow grapes and make wine.
Sure.
And then my wife, for whatever reason, started getting pregnant, and we started.
How'd that happen?
I don't know. I had a degree in biology, but it was plants, and so we started having children. And she was getting her master's, and I went and got a job. And 25 years later, I said, "Hey, let's do this." Talked about it to the degree that everybody in my family and friends were like, "Yeah, shut up." Yeah. Except for Michael, he's like, "I'd like to do that if we ever do that. If you ever want to do that, let's do that." And, just things came together, and we started, and we didn't really know what we were getting into, and things kind of snowballed. Michael took a 6-week sabbatical and turned into the rest of his life.
I was going to mention that because I read that, kind of reading on the website, and so everybody knows you're a younger winery. Texas in general is a young region, still kind of developing.
Absolutely.
But within that, you guys are still really young.
Well, so let's not dumb it down too much. That's a good story, but Andy planted a lot of seeds and introduced us to wine, and but there was a recession in 2008, right? And so being 27 years old in a recession is kind of a tough thing to find a job. So I purposely went and found a job at a vineyard because that was a job of
recession
interest.
Proof.
Right?
Yeah.
It was an hourly job, Monday through Friday, where they're going to pay you cash or a check at the very end of the day. And so I got a job at a vineyard in 2008 for the reason that...
Here in Texas?
Yeah, at Bella
In
Vista
Wimberley.
Ranch in Wimberley.
Okay, cool.
And so helped them plant 2 acres. Myself and 2 other guys built 1 acre for Sangiovese and Cab Franc, and started on the 2nd acre, and I never actually saw that vineyard planted. But anyway, long story short, we knew that I had to get a start somewhere, and later ended up getting a certificate in viticulture from Texas Tech. And
While he was working in the oil field.
yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
So, being in your late 20s during a recession was a terrible time to find a job, so you better find something that makes money or,
Or wine.
Or wine, yeah. And And so anyway, long story short, we went through, it's very difficult just to start a winery, right? Unless you have $1 million cash that you just want to spend. So
so people understand that. Just go, hey,
this
start
was
a winery.
Yeah, so this started in 2008, the actual idea. And I said, Andy, I'm going to go down the road and get a job over at this vineyard. They're building a vineyard. And Andy's like, well, learn all you can.
That's right.
Learn all you can and write it down. And guess what? I wrote it down. And not too long after that, a cousin of mine knew a guy at the Texas Tech program, and they were planting grapes. And that's how we found out about the Texas Tech program. And, okay, that's 2009, 2010. Well, then 2-3 years later, we're actually, okay, well, now let's find a place to actually plant these grapes, because the old adage is that plants want to be stressed and they'll grow in all these crazy environments. And it's all
kind of bullshit.
Yeah. I mean,
seriously,
you need to have soil with nutrition in it.
They want to be happy to produce good grapes.
What plant wants to grow?
So listeners who are hearing that, if they've heard, about winemaking and things like that, they always hear what you said. You want the vines to be a little bit stressed, because the thought there is you're going to get a better fruit on the vine. You're not going to get as much fruit.
During a very small stage, the very last stage of veraison, and
right
the very
before
last
you,
stage of
right
ripening,
before you harvest.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the rest of the year, they want to be happy.
Yeah, they want to be happy. They want to have nutrients. They want to have organic soil or organic matter in the soil. They want to have water. They want to have the right temperatures. They don't want, if that was that easy, then the world's best wine would be growing on the beach, right?
Sure.
In sand. And that's not where it's growing for the most part. But there are wine regions throughout the world that grapes grow in pebbles and
limestone,
and the best wine regions in the world grow in limestone. And guess what?
But they have
the hill
good
country
dirt
is
too.
full of wine regions, or it's full of limestone. But anyway, and so when you fast forward it, it's easy to talk about yourself, right? But when you put everything into working order, our story probably doesn't make sense to the average person going to start a winery.
No.
It's built off of a brother's dream, and a little brother found an interest in that, and it's hard to equate into a business plan how that works.
Well, it sounds like it was just kind of meant to be. I mean,
a lot of shit came together that in the universe probably doesn't normally come together.
Yeah, and I want to get back to one of the points you made, Michael, is that when you talk about not being easy to start a winery, a lot of people may not understand that it's 3 to 4 years prior to that. Once you get property and you start clearing land and you put some vines in the ground, there's not like wine in the bottle that next year. It takes a while.
No, and that's one of the things when I was in my mid-40s, I said, if we're going to do this, let's do this. And then Michael and I started looking for property, and that took about a year. And finding this place was an absolute miracle, because we had looked at a lot of places that weren't great. They were great for people to come to, but they weren't great for growing grapes. Okay. And I credit Michael a couple of times saying, Andy, if you want to grow grapes, let's find a place that you can grow grapes, not just a place that people will stop on a bus or stop in their car and
totally
pull
agree.
Over. Yeah. And so, in the end, I have to give if Elena, my wife, listens to this, and I don't give her credit for actually finding this piece of property, I will never hear the end of it.
You won't sleep at home anymore?
I won't. No, I'll be sleeping on one of these couches here in the tasting room. But Elena, we were taking our kids to camp. She said, hey, look at that. That property's for sale. And I said, well, look at it when we're coming back by. And it just happened to be the property we ended up buying today. And this is a street that I've literally been going up and down since I was 13 years old. This road, 1623 Ranch to Market Road from Blanco to Stonewall, Texas, is a street that I've driven up and down since I was a kid. And I remember this road. And so having a piece of property on this road has an extra level of meaning to me, because it really does connect me to my youth.
A lot of sentimental meaning there.
Yeah, I mean, just to be crass, the gas station in Stonewall that they're about to tear down, I remember taking a piss in that bathroom in 1982, and that's where LBJ used to buy gas.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah. He and I have a lot in common.
So the people listening are getting, they understand now that this is home to you guys. You didn't move to Texas to try to make wine in Texas. This is where you're from. And you said that you absolutely loved wine and being out in California, but you never had, I mean, one, let's be honest, real estate's freaking expensive, and who would want to do that? But you always had that passion to come back to Texas and make wine here.
Yeah, and we spent summers there, and I gave it a go for a year after I graduated, but Michael was a lot smarter and said, F that, I'm a Texan.
Yeah.
And so, Texas is our home, and this is where we want to make wine, and this is where we grow grapes, and this is all of our wine is 100% Texas wine. We truly believe in that, and I give a shout out to Chris at William Chris for starting the 100%
being very vocal about it.
Yeah, the 100% Texas wine, but that's something that we truly believe in, and we'll always make wine from Texas wine, or we won't make it.
And you bring up a good point, and a little shout out to Chris and them, because I think they do a great job as well. But I think you all, like them, understand, and I think, Texas, this region early on, were trying to make the wines that they thought people wanted to drink, right? The big cabs and things like that. To your point earlier, Michael, the soil, the weather, the climate, all plays a part in what grapes will do well here and really shine. And I think you guys have done a great job being, as young as you are, really understanding that, or really doing the research or whatever it was that got you to the point that you said, if we're going to do this, here's the varietals that we need to have to make sure this is successful, or has a good chance to be successful.
We don't know 100%, so I'm very vocal about Touriga Nacional, and I enjoyed that grape variety for a number of reasons. This year we're finding out that it's, we have some wood damage in the vineyard where we don't have it on other varieties. So, over the next few years, maybe we'll find out that, it's just, we don't know how to combat some of that wood damage or wood disease. A lot of these things are learning
as you go,
curves, and learning as you go, and being hyper vigilant about talking to as many people as you can, and being educated about it, and not making decisions all the time just for a monetary reason. And that, when I say that, I want to be a little philosophical in it, and you have to make money. So we're not saying that you can't, create a wine and give it away for free, but
what
you have to, you have to. Like,
we're not giving it away for free.
You kind of have to follow your gut feeling or philosophy sometime, and anyway.
Well, and look, a lot of the grapes that we've planted are, our name is Adega Vinho, wine cellar in Portuguese. And we have Portuguese in our family, but we have 5 million times more than Elizabeth Warren has a Native American. And I don't care what your political point is. I'm just telling you the truth.
We grow 9 different varieties. Okay, and 5 of them are native Portuguese varieties.
Well, and I was going to bring up the name, but since you brought it up, tell everybody in Portuguese, what that means.
It means wine cellar. Okay. And Michael and I tried to pick, with my background in botany and Michael's background in getting his certificates and his education in horticulture and viticulture and enology, we tried to pick grapes that work well in Texas. And some of them were a given. We didn't have to think too hard because there's a million people doing it. We had Tempranillo and Mourvèdre and all of these different varieties. But some of them we kind of took a swing at the fence. We grow a white grape called Orinto that hasn't done well in the area. And we thought, hey, let's plant 16 plants and see how it goes. And so we planted some plants, and they went really well. And they produced a lot of grapes, of which we just made our first rosé out of this past year in 2020. Orinto is a white grape from Portugal, but
it's actually a native grape species to the Douro Valley, which is a very interesting thing. So, and then there's also only 6 grows of it as we know of today.
Correct. In the US.
There may be others
in the U.S.
Yeah, and there may be others, and there probably are, but the plant has just been legal to sell. The USDA allowed it to be sold within like the last decade.
Okay.
Oh no, 7 years.
Well, 10 years ago, roughly.
We're brothers. We never agree on time frames. But anyways, very recently, my point there is, in fact, it's so new that I just was told by the TTB, you can't name any wine after Orinto because we don't recognize it as a grape.
Really?
So
There's other synonyms for that variety that they may recognize, but we just don't know.
No, we checked.
There's not.
No. So, anyways,
It's a varietal I don't know.
Our
I've never heard of it.
Our attorney said, Andy, go ahead and petition the TTB to recognize it takes about 2 years. Until then, it's a white wine.
Okay.
So we can deal with that. But we swung for the fences on a couple of the grapes. Touriga Nacional is a grape that we grow a lot of. We try to buy a lot of. It does decently. Well, I'm not going to say it does great or it does well, but it produces fabulous wines, and Michael's produced some fabulous wines from it, one of which we won a gold medal in San Francisco with last year in 2020, and one of our first.
It's a blend of Merlot and Touriga Nacional. It's
Really?
Real, yeah.
And Michael, tell that story, because that's an interesting story with picking it at Robert Clay and getting a.
Yeah, we just last minute. We have Touriga Nacional planted here, and it's very hard to get a hold of. Everyone really wants to keep their Touriga and not sell it if they make wine, and if they do sell wine, or if they do sell grapes, it's usually under contract to someone else. And I like to describe Touriga Nacional as a Cabernet on some wild steroids. It has a lot of big fruit and volume up front, and
smacks you around.
It smacks you around a little bit, and it also has a lot of tannin on it.
So are you growing it, or are you
sourcing it? We grow
You
3
are growing
acres
it.
of it. Yes,
And sourcing it.
And sourcing it.
And if you're listening, you grow Touriga Nacional, call me up and let's buy some and let's work together.
So that's interesting that you say it's like a cab on steroids.
Yeah.
A grape that I think about when I think about that kind of description is Sagrantino.
Okay, so
Which is kinda-
it's similar in big volume, big mouth, a lot of mid palate, a lot of fruit. But
Can
there's
age
lot
for a
of-
while?
it can age for a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
It's one of the largest tannin producers. So
I was about to
Tannat's
say,
known to
wild
be
tannins.
the biggest antioxidant producer. So tannins an antioxidant, so it'll age you well, right? That's why all the Italians live so long, because they drink so much wine, right? Joke, but
they don't live long right now.
they don't live long right now. But,
That's the smoking. That's killing it right now.
So it's a beautiful grape.
So what's the blend on that?
So the blend on that wine in particular is 50% Merlot and 50%
50-50.
Touriga Nacional from Robert Clay in Mason, Texas. And
Tell them about the high bricks
And so we went out to pick this.
late in the season.
Yeah, Touriga, and we tricked some friends into helping us because they thought, well, Mason's a beautiful area. We wouldn't mind going out there.
And we said we had beer.
We had beer. And
Little food.
My wife
Yeah,
and
no, we didn't have
my
any
wife
food.
and her family came out and helped us, and they were awesome. They worked all night.
We didn't lie to them. We told them it was going to suck.
We told them it was going to suck. But we went out and hand harvested all these grapes, and it was just a very high bricks.
High sugar.
So high sugar translates into higher alcohol. That can be fun for some people, but it can also be a major turnoff to have hot wine, right?
Well, he's a bourbon lover, so Rob would love it.
Yeah, you like it.
I'm a wine lover too, so you got that balance, So
it was about 17% alcohol.
Really?
Yeah, we used a.
How much you get taxed on that?
We had to use a champagne yeast to get it all the way through.
High alcohol Zinfandel yeast.
We had to use a high Zinfandel yeast.
So
reminiscent of the champagne yeast that we've used.
Anyway, we fermented it. It fermented pretty close to dry, and it needed to be blended out. So we.
I loved it though. By the way.
Yeah,
really.
It was nice.
The single varietal had a lot of. I always talk about grapes in the terms of tools that they have in the tool chest.
Sure.
And some grapes have one tool, like a Chardonnay. If you don't have that tool, it's just not going to work. But the wine that Mike made out of the Touriga had a bunch of very good qualities to it, but it was really hot. It was
alcoholic. We didn't
16 or 17% alcohol, which is way over the point.
Now, is that because they left it on the vine too long?
Yes.
Well, that was we left it on the vine too long.
Oh,
so we had the opportunity to pick it a week before, but it's very difficult to find help. And
okay.
We had to pick it ourselves.
We had to get the weekend crew together to go.
It was like 28 bricks, 28.5 bricks.
Something like that. It was up there. But it's high alcohol anyway. Long story short, we made a good wine out of it, and it won an award before we opened. That was cool.
That's awesome. You still have some of that, or is it gone?
Oh, we still have some.
Okay, saved a little for yourself.
We'll open a bottle later for you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so brothers, but it's not just you two. This is truly a kind of family thing going on here. Let's talk about how important is family and everybody kind of. I mean, your son's here, Andrew, and I've seen your wife. Does she help out around? I mean, this is truly a family kind of.
not to
venture.
mention her family helps out. So it's a
Okay.
multi-family.
It's got some
discipline.
branches going all over.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, her parents have been here, I think, for every harvest that we've harvested, including in 2018 when we harvested the Toriganesi now.
Charles knows how to operate a mean weed whacker too.
Yes. And
He's
so
good at that.
my boys, Michael's boy, he doesn't have his newest son or his son here who is 9 weeks old, 10 weeks
No,
old?
he's 12 weeks old now.
Wow. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah.
So you have that son and then older children?
Nope. Fletch is their first.
Oh, really? Okay.
And Fletch is even a family name. Fletcher is our grandfather's name, and then Lee is his middle name, which is Tiffany's grandfather's name.
very
So-
So we keep, but so get back to how is this still a family winery, right? Before we get too ADD on some of these conversations, right? So the reason why it's a family winery is that
You're the ADD one.
the reason it's a family winery is that if we just had this business plan that said, hey man, we're gonna have this tasting room, it's gonna look like this, and we're gonna do this, and this, our family probably wouldn't want to have had anything to do with it. And so the reason why it's a family, and this is philosophy of me thinking about this, the reason why it's a family winery
Pros on.
is because we guilt trip the hell out of each other into helping each other out.
And
that's-
thinking it's a good idea. They
Yeah.
really think it's a good idea.
And so that has worked since 2016 when we started building this place. And now it's like an essential tool to make your other family member feel bad for not helping you out over here.
Manipulation
But
is
now-
a family skill.
So our sister, who has
Yeah.
never been paid a dime, has been a huge help to this.
Okay.
Our father, my mom, but my father especially, our father especially, Boyd Bilger.
I was getting ready to ask that question there, but
They just bought a house in Fredericksburg last weekend. We've been trying to get him to move up here for 5 years. But, if everything that works here works because he fixed it, with the exception of computers, those work because we didn't let him fix them.
yeah.
He'll never listen to this, I think. But anyways, he's been the inspiration of somebody who works 7 days a week, works hard, gives it his all, and is willing to do anything for his kids.
We were raised like we work, okay? That's how we were raised, and that's what you have to do to run a winery, and I don't know much about it, so we're not going to tout ourselves to be the best winemakers. We're not going to tout ourselves, but we're going to be proud of the product that we grow and create and that we produce. And so we're proud of the wines that we release, and there are certain wines that we haven't released because they may not be at the mark that we have for them. And,
But we were taught
we were taught to work and be proud of the work that you do.
and just get up. If somebody serves you a plate of shit, you just get up the next day.
You just get up and you take that plate of shit
Yeah.
and you make the best.
But
shit
you're not
palette
going
you
to
can.
serve a plate of shit.
No.
You're kind of like that expediter in the back of the kitchen at a
Yes.
restaurant. Is it worthy to go out or not? And you guys
So-
kind of make that call.
That's not something that we're interested in.
Yeah.
So we make such small volumes of wine that we would rather lose than serve something to some. I tell people this all the time, and I probably told you this the first time you
Yeah,
came
you
in.
have.
Michael and I, if we don't like the wine and we don't agree on it, it never sees the light of day in our tasting room. And that's not a lie. We've argued about a lot of things as far as wine. And but in the end, we've always said, oh, it's not ready, or we're not going to sell this wine.
It didn't fall into the kind of the lane that you guys are operating in. If you didn't feel
For
like
whatever
it met
reason.
yeah, okay.
For whatever
so there's a
reason.
variety of reasons that it could be deemed we're not going to put it out.
Well, so like with our varieties, Michael will call, hey, look, and I'm making this up. Don't base your purchases on this. The Syrah, it's not as good as I think it should be. Let's do this. Let's blend it with this and this. And so we go through those blending. We go through these exercises, and then hopefully, we don't ever know when you do it, but hopefully you make the right decision to produce something that tastes better than it would have on its own.
Sure.
And a lot of people around the world are very hung up on single varietals, and I don't want to steal Michael's thunder on that, but for us, we want to produce the best wines that we can produce, and if that means we're blending, and if that means that the single varietal is banging and drops your shorts, then that's the wine that we're going to produce, and that's what we're
shorts
shooting for.
and skirts. All right, you can't just say shorts.
Well, I was looking at the females. I didn't want to offend them. So if we can produce a panty dropper and it works, then we're
or a jock dropper. It doesn't matter.
Again, he's falling short on both of those each time.
Just playing.
Yeah, I'm not that woke.
But to your point, Andrew, a lot of people who might be into, Americans, I'm going to speak for Americans, because if we talk old world, almost everything's blended.
Yes.
I mean, you go to Bordeaux, you're not going to find a single variety.
Okay, so there's a
Rarely.
here's a conversation.
Well, let me finish my point
Oh,
just
yeah,
real
yeah,
quick.
yeah.
People in America go to Napa, and because of the rules, and they can put, Cabernet Sauvignon or Merlot, but 95, 99% of those are still blended. You got to have 75% to be able to call it that single varietal. So blending is something, to me, has to be done. It's something that's not has to, but it's important to get something in the bottle that's balanced and complement. The grapes complement each other.
It's the most important thing the most important tool the winemaker has.
Yeah. But go ahead.
This is taken from conversations of winemakers in California who've worked with others across the pond. But some people will say the biggest complaint about American wine is that they're hung up on single varieties, and I'm sort of lifting a conversation that I heard on another podcast, but it made me think about this, and you sit around and you talk to other wine professionals, and I kind of in a similar agreement. I think the best wine in the barrel should go in the blend, no matter what your marketing is. A good barrel of wine is a good barrel of wine, whether it's Tempranillo, whether it's
our goal.
Merlot.
Isn't our goal to make the best wine and put it in a bottle,
yeah,
so that when we serve it to you, Rob, and your wife and our friends, they're like,
that's good wine.
yeah, that's good wine. Or to quote my favorite YouTube guy, fuck, that's delicious. Can we say that? Is that trademarked?
Sam, the cooking guy?
Yes, Sam.
So,
Are you impressed?
I am.
but why are we hung up on single varieties?
Well, I want to kind of break that down a little bit. You say we.
Okay, so just the
winemakers,
wine professionals.
Okay, do you think they are?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big time.
Or are they serving to a person, a consumer, that thinks it's a single varietal because of the way
so this is going to get me in a lot of trouble.
Go right ahead, man. Fire away.
Okay, so everyone wants Tempranillo, that is this big, giant, robust Tannenbaum.
And that's not what it is.
And that's not really what Tempranillo is.
Right.
And people are finally talking about that in the state of Texas because they're realizing that, well, we've been growing Tempranillo here, a lot of it for the last 10 years and pushing it. But who wants wine that you have to adulterate so much to get to a point? That takes the beauty and the finesse and the beauty out of the science, the beauty out of the craftsmanship. It takes the beauty out of the winemaker. And to create all these giant volumes of wine that has been manipulated to be larger on the mouthfeel, to have a longer, stronger finish.
More viscosity.
And all this is bullshit, okay? You know why? I'll tell you why. Because
I have to say, Michael told me not to talk about any of this before we started.
Okay, well.
But he gets to.
We're getting into it. So I'm going to say it in a very nice way, and the fact that Tempranillo will be like that in the right spot, at the right vineyard, picked on the right season.
And right terroir. I mean,
the right winemaker.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I said. The right vineyard, the right spot, the right climate,
I was
the
just
right
trying
winemaker.
to use sexy French language, Michael.
And, it's like, that's dumb because there's already grapes out there that will do that naturally, even on a bad year.
Zinfandel.
And so Touriga Nacional will do that. You let it go to 25 bricks, it's going to be a Tannenbaum, period. Tannat's up there too.
Yep.
And so some of the world's best Tempranillos are elegant and smooth. Smooth's a bad word in the wine profession. I don't care. It'll be graceful and elegant on your palate.
Rounded.
It can be rounded, and it may be lighter bodied, lighter color, and still give you the attributes of Tempranillo that you're looking for. Excuse me. And so that's just one little example. Everyone's caught up with having, wines from around the world, single varieties. It's like we already grow 100 different varieties in the state of Texas. You can't have the best Dolcetto. You can't have the best Tempranillo. You can't have the best Mourvedre. You can't have the best Merlot.
You can't have any
the best
good Riesling.
Chardonnay. You can't have the best Riesling from the same vineyard in Central Texas every year. It's just not going to work. So I think that opens up a big old a big old spectrum of conversation. And Texas may be the Wild West and everything, but are we making wine for our winery? I'd like to say that Adega Vinho is making wine for our winery, or are we making wine for the masses? And
we're definitely not making wine for the masses.
Yeah, we're not making wine for the masses. Like,
but
that Tempranillo 18 that we just poured you up, it's a lighter mid-palate Tempranillo. I mean, that's a new wine that we're just kind of trying out, but we have an 18 Neil Newsom Tempranillo that it's made just bottled, a year ago, and it's a beautiful wine. We're going to hold on to it for a little bit longer. It's coming together in the bottle well, but is that a Tannenbaum? No, but it's fruit forward and it's elegant and it's soft on your palate.
But not being a Tannenbaum.
And it still says Tempranillo all day.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be a Tannenbaum.
No, it doesn't. No.
And that just to me makes it for maybe say younger or inexperienced wine drinkers. It's a little bit more approachable for them.
Sure.
And it can still be a very nice, elegant, balanced wine that
and
they're going to enjoy.
And I find the tannins are usually that breaking point where people turn off.
Sure. Not understanding what it is.
Exactly right. We have a couple wines that are very, very light Pinot Noir style wines that I call our gateway wines, our gateway reds. So if you're a white drinker or a rosé drinker, we have a couple wines that really attract you. But I find that tannin in like a 17 Tempranillo, that's what finally they're like, oh, I'm out. And it makes sense to me because that's where that tannin starts to show up.
It can be astringent on your,
sure, a detectable
if you don't drink
level.
wine every day,
But I'd like to say this. I think that the winemakers right now in Texas, and I'm just going to use a broad paintbrush. I think we have a bunch of really well educated, really well practiced folks, young Turks that are really trying hard.
Trying to be innovative?
Trying to be
big time.
Innovative and make the best wines they possibly can from the grapes they're growing or the grapes that they're providing in Texas. And that's something that's happened over the last 5 to 10 years. And that's why I think the Texas wine industry is on a hockey stick level to catch up to Napa, and I've been made fun of for saying that. But you have a bunch of folks here that, I kid you not, Michael dreams about fermentation.
Yeah.
Well, and he calls me in the morning, and he's pissed off that he was dreaming about fermentation and not about his son and his wife.
Yeah.
So,
look, I'm going to say it this way, and you can tell me if I'm hurting your feelings or not. But the winemaker.
I'm better looking.
Okay.
Oh no! Wait.
Hey, that's why we're on the radio.
Sorry.
That's why we're on the radio. You know what they say about radio people, right?
I feel like you're up in here, Andrew. You're reading my mind. No, I'm kidding. But you always, or to me, winemaking is part of the process. But to me, a winemaker can take a bad year, from all the reasons, and make something that's still really good. That's where he shines.
Oh yeah, sure.
But the hope is that all the stars align and what you harvest is fantastic, and all you're doing is going, hey, where do we want to? How do we want to? These are all great. How do we play with these? Because you never hear. You hear that was a great vintage, meaning that year was great. You never hear that winemaker kicked ass last year. That guy did a great,
in a terrible year.
In a terrible year.
And that's why
we're still learning big time on that end.
That's why I say, though, that winemaking is so dynamic, because Michael will present a plan and he'll say, this is what we're going to do. These are we talk about the yeast we're going to use, let's say, and we talk about the barreling, and we talk about when we're going to pick them at what bricks.
Or the yeast we're not going to use.
Yes, but you don't know, so I'll just give you an example of when that all goes awry. Last year, we had more Ved in our estate here, and we made the decision after picking a little bit of it to let it hang. We were like, you know what? Let's let it hang. We're going to get higher bricks. It's not where we want it. The phenolics aren't right. The seeds aren't where we want them. So we let it hang. We get 10 inches of rain. Oh. And then it was, when do we pick it? It sucks.
Yeah.
Do we pick it now, or do we pick it in another week? So, Michael's out there literally 20 times a day. Andy, it's at this. I think it's going to fall off the vine. Oh, finally we make the decision, let's pick it. So it's all hands on deck. We pick the grapes, we ferment them, we make wine.
We're making this sound way more interesting than it actually really truly is.
Michael, I'm a firm believer that we could be the next deep sea fishermen if you just come out and watch us.
Yeah.
The TV show.
Because fishing's boring as shit to watch.
So it's picking fucking grapes.
That might be an episode.
Or growing them. It's like grass. You can just watch it grow. So I was talking about lawn grass.
I enjoy growing grapes, and I enjoy mowing the lawn. So
Dad enjoys mowing the lawn.
Mowing the lawn is listen, there's an art to mowing the lawn, first of all. It truly is.
You got to have a routine.
Depending on which direction you mow.
That's exactly right. That's what
depending on, there's a lot of different.
I see Rob and Mike are like simpatico on this.
There's a lot of variables.
Whereas I'm like,
I
just
get mad
cut
at my
the
son. I'm like, dude,
grass.
we don't mow the yard that way. You got to push it this way. Yeah.
If you have that, well, it depends on if you have your deck, if you're a riding lawnmower kind of guy, or you're still pushing, which is nothing wrong with. We do both. But
you have a bigger yard
deck,
if you have a riding mower.
If you got that deck.
We're city folk.
Or if you're pulling a mower too, which some people could call it a hog, but whatever. Anyway, depending on the length, if you have that deck set up too high and you're like, I'm going to keep this long.
Are we really talking about? Are we really?
You're getting split ends, right? That doesn't look pretty when it doesn't rain.
You know, I forgot that he had those great sound effects until right now. He's been very laid back with not using them.
Get it out of the park.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's take a quick pause. I'm going to let everybody know that I'm drinking some fantastic Sangiovese that we get.
Thank you.
You guys have produced here, but we'll come right back and. I want to jump into all the varietals that you do and let people know kind of the wines that you're making here, and we'll talk a little bit about that.
Awesome.
All right, we'll be right back.
Get on up.
Woo! Get on up.
All right, little Michael and Andy adding to the entry back into the show. Thank you, guys. That was awesome. Give us a little more, Michael. Come on. You got the rhythm going.
You don't want to hear it too much right now.
No more?
Yeah, baby. Just do that, dude. It's wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we are back. We're going to get into the varietals of what you guys are offering, the wines that you're making, and kind of what you're putting out.
That's what she said.
And before we get into those, let's talk a little bit about, you guys like to partake. You know, we talk to a lot of winemakers and wine people. It's not the only alcoholic beverage that they enjoy.
Yeah,
right?
Unfortunately, we enjoy all of them.
All of them.
Exactly. Correct.
Gin, vodka,
fortunately.
Yeah.
potato juice.
Yes, beer.
Okay. Beer, okay.
The best wine in the world is made with beer.
Okay, that's which one?
All of them.
All of them.
Yes.
So you guys told me, we chatted a little bit, and you guys told me you're into some bourbon. So I brought a few bottles of bourbon that I thought we could sip on while we're talking wine.
Yeah, you kind of blew us away with your picks here because they're picks that one we've probably not seen, heard of, and are way above
The
our
old
pay grade.
Weller is just calling my name here.
Yeah, yeah.
We're going to get to that one.
We're super stoked that you brought us these bourbons.
So we're starting with the way I'm kind of lining these up for you guys tonight as we drink and we talk is I'm doing it by proof, kind of building the palate. So the E.H. Taylor, all of theirs are always 100 proof, but except for their single barrel. So when they do a small batch, a rye or the single barrel, always 100 proof. So we're going to start there, and then we'll go to the Four Roses limited edition from 2019, which is thought to be the best limited edition release from Four Roses in the last 4 or 5 years.
Rob, are you sure you want to waste that on us?
Yeah, absolutely, man. You can't know what you're missing until you try it. And so now I'm going to be anxious to see you guys going, where the hell do I get some of this?
Hey, sorry, baby, may turn me into a full-fledged bourbon drinker. She'll be like, well, that's the last vice to cross off the freaking list.
So we started talking, you know, the listeners have heard us say a few varietals that we've talked about that you guys make here or grow here to make wines with. Let's just fire through them. I mean, we know Spanish is a big influence, Portugal.
So we have 12 acres of estate grapes grown here.
Tinta.
So we have 9 varieties. So Andy just said the first one, Tinta Cow.
Touriga.
So I'm going to go ahead and just give the microphone to Andy.
No, you
and then he
finish.
can walk out with the radio show.
I was just trying to.
So we have 12 acres planted here. So we have acre and a half of Tinta Cow planted. I'll just go through the varieties. Tinta Cow, Touriga Nacional, Mourvèdre, Tempranillo, the white grapes, Arento and Alvarinho. We also have Sangiovese,
Cab Franc,
and Susau. And so that's a lot of varieties. All of them are planted to a minimum of a half acre, and the max acreage is 3 acres on those. So you can do the math if you want to fool around with that. But our mainstays are Touriga Nacional at 3 acres, Mourvèdre and Tempranillo at 3 acres, and then we start going down on that. Alvarinho and Arento, we have about, 2 acres of Arento and about an acre of Alvarinho, and that's going to go into a nice white blend here soon.
Which we hope will be reminiscent of a Vinho Verde.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we're kind of going back and forth with the light crispiness.
Not necessarily the effervescence that you grab in a traditional Vinho Verde, but a nice blend.
Nice. Now, you left out one varietal that
Yeah.
I thought you might have here, kind of with that, Spanish influence, that I'm going to ask maybe you'll have in the future, if you thought about it, the Grenache.
Oh, Grenache. Yes, we would love to have Grenache.
We
yes.
buy a lot. We buy as
Do you
much
buy
as
some?
as
Okay.
much as we can.
We love working with Grenache.
Okay.
I love
Okay.
Grenache.
And-
When you talk about Mourvèdre and Syrah, I'm
Yeah.
thinking, okay,
We
we
need
got to have a
Grenache
little
as well.
Grenache.
In fact, I'm gonna give Mike some props here because I think one of the top 2 best wines we have to release in the next 9 months is a Grenache that we got out of West Texas, High Plains, from a friend of ours, One Elm, correct?
Yeah, well, Brad Stewart.
Brad Stewart. So it is probably one of
20 months in barrel.
one of the best Grenaches I've ever had. I love Grenache. I'm a Grenache snob.
Okay.
And
I'm with you.
It's just banging.
It's a beautiful fruit. It has a lot of luscious qualities to it that you don't always, it's kind of like a 3D fruit compared to a lot of other fruits.
But it has that tannin structure that you would expect on a Grenache, and I'm just have to say, and Michael will tell you, we don't give each other a lot of compliments unless they're due. And it's due. It's a fabulous wine. I can't wait for it to hit the streets.
Well, thanks. It's gonna be on the tasting menu in a month or 2.
Is it really?
Yeah, it will.
Okay.
We're simply waiting on
Waiting
labels,
on the labels,
which
on
is
that one.
the freaking bane of our existence.
Yes, I've heard a lot of people say that.
So back to the estate vineyard, which is our pride, and that's our prize pig right
It
there.
really is.
And that's where we spend most of our working hours, is in the vineyard and making wine and just keeping the place landscaped and up to par, so you're not walking through.
Also, let me say this as well. A lot of people have show vineyards, vineyards that people drive past so they can get to the winery.
Yeah, I was about to say something, but I'll shut up. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Jackass.
We want to show
Jackass.
we want to show you what you can do in the Texas Hill Country. So our vineyard is a show vineyard. Come over here and we'll show you
How it's supposed to be done.
No, not how it's supposed to be done. How we think it does well here. I'm not going to say it's supposed to be done that way, because you could do it another way and it could be just as good or better. But we take a lot of pride, and there's a lot of education. There's a lot of physical work that's done in the vineyard with myself and 2 other
And
other
I want
guys,
to chime
Ricky
in
and Tony.
there on a
That's
point.
an important part.
From a wine drinker, I think people who are looking to find good wine, there's people who come to this area, Napa included, any wine region, to go have a good time. They're just popping in wineries.
Sure.
They're going to buy a
They
bottle.
should. You can have a great time out
absolutely.
there.
But then there's also other wine people who enjoy good wine, and they're going to seek it out. I always think about, a nice restaurant. Doesn't matter where you put it. If you're producing good food, people will find you. Word's going to get out. And
Right.
I kind of think of you all kind of that way, and I can
thank
name
you.
a couple others. But I think if you're doing something right, people are going to find you. Word's going to get out that you're doing it right. You're producing good juice, and it's just going to happen.
Look, we think about all kinds of stuff in the vineyard. So when I say we think about we think of the conventional way how to grow grapes, and that's conventional way that's in every grape growing region, VSP, trellis
So
training.
for people who might be listening who don't understand that when we start talking about the trellis and things like that, kind of give them a quick kind of overview.
Okay, well, so all of our vines, for the most part, are trained in VSP, which means vertical shoot positioning, and the majority of the world's grapes are planted in the VSP, vertical shoot positioning. Basically, a grapevine wants to grow straight up towards the sun, and you allow it to, and you tuck it between some catch wires so it grows high and tight, and it makes it look real pretty, and you can grow some wonderful fruit out of it.
I thought he was going to hit the button and said, that's what she said.
I missed an opportunity.
But, you know,
She said.
some of the world's grape growing regions, you know.
You can have a Geneva sheet. You can have head prune.
Yeah, you can have all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of different ways to grow.
You can
grapes.
be in the Azores and grow them in rock and never do anything other than clip them down. So
we do something that is easy to learn. You can look at it and see, you know, where you should prune. And it's easy and quick to teach others because you just can't sit down and take a class for 2 months before you go work in a vineyard. You kind of need to learn on the spot. So
you get 20 minutes and a bunch of
Pair of clippers.
and
I mean, really, truly.
Yeah.
we can set you up for whatever we're doing during the day in probably 20, 30 minutes.
But I will say this, that the vineyard for us is, and this is a cliche you hear from all around Texas and the world, the wine is made in the field.
It's very true.
And we believe that 100%. 95% of what Michael does is done out there in the field. And
Sure.
He steers it 5% at the end.
And I do that with the help of Ricky and Tony, who, you know, don't go fucking around with your employees. If you treat them nicely and you treat them and you have like a mutual appreciation for the work you're doing.
Love of wine.
Yeah, and a love of wine. I mean, there's no explanation to it.
I'm not quite sure.
And the
We're
reason
talk about fucking around with your employees. But
Well, the reason I say that is because there's a lot of people out there that enjoyed working in a vineyard, and then they had some dickhead yell at them because for whatever reason, and then that person doesn't want to work in a vineyard anymore. And that's the truth.
And so we try to be the opposite of that as best you can.
Yeah.
And the folks that we have out here under Michael and I mean, even the kids that you met today working in the tasting room,
They work in the vineyard too.
they work in the vineyard. All of us work in the vineyard. We don't all work as much as Michael, Tony, and Ricky in the vineyard,
Sure.
but everybody gets out there. Everybody does their share when they can. And it's an important portion in fact, it's the most important part of the winemaking process. And
that's something that sounds really super cliche, and you can joke around about lots of other things. But one thing that you can't joke around about is there's no vineyard in the world except for, you know, here or there that has, you know, fly-by-night workers that produces quality fruit and exceptional wine. Quality fruit and exceptional wine is
indicative of quality workers
is
and
hard work.
Yep.
It is focused. It is people being respectful to each other in the vineyard, because there's, you know, as philosophical and whatnot, you can call it vibes, you can call it karma, whatever. If you got some bad mojo running that year and your
like
employees
your
are pissed
plants.
off, your vineyard's you're just not going to do well. So there's like a bigger, broader picture to it. And we can't always be happy-go-lucky.
Oh,
deep.
Christ.
We're getting deep.
You gotta get deep into
You're
this
getting
one.
me into let your employees go surfing, Michael.
I'm telling you, if you let your employees
Let them go surfing.
it's true.
All right. Well, let's stay on the vineyard because we talked a little bit
Yeah.
about the vines and VSP. But
So that basically that training system here is from the start of the spring, which is late February, early March, until almost September, late August. We are either growing, we're growing grapes, but we're either we're working in the vines.
I mean,
from
tell
late February.
tell them the process.
I'll tell you the process really quick.
tucking and
Yeah, I mean, without getting into all,
clipping
we're working the vines from late February, early March, all the way through October or August, and that's just the hill country harvest. And so, a week to 2 weeks later, we have fruit coming in from the high plains, which is the Lubbock region, and it's fun. It's a beautiful thing, And
well, let's talk about this a little bit because it's not just working the vines. There's other things based on weather that you have to do to kind of protect the vines.
So there's
talk
hail,
about canopies,
yeah,
birds,
deer.
So we have netting.
Heat,
We have netting that we put up, and it's a 2-for-1 kind of deal. It's
birds
and hail
Really?
it keeps out, and it's an important thing.
We're really smart. We get 2 for 1. A lot of people just think it's birds.
2 for 1.
Yeah.
But hail,
Hail's
once in a
bad,
while,
yeah.
but how often do you actually see hail here?
All the time.
We
do
see
you
hail
really?
here
That
all the
often?
time. We saw hail here
2 nights ago, not 5 miles north of here, they had golf ball to tennis size hail.
I did not realize in this region you got that much hail.
Yeah, 2 years ago, very good friends of ours at Narrow Path were basically 1.5 miles as the crow flies between the vineyards. They were decimated, 70% loss, and we flew through with no hail.
So is there a season, or is it just hit or miss?
Spring
there
is
is a
the
season. Okay,
worst.
I figured it kinda was.
It's the cold fronts and the heat from the
Sure.
Gulf, and you get big hail, and that's the biggest. And one of the reasons that we want to be 80% estate possibly in the next 2 to 5 years is because if you say you're going to be 100% estate, then you're going to have years where you lose. And we don't want to lose. We can't afford to lose. We have to hedge that. So we're always going to try to buy grapes. And there's grapes that we don't want to grow or we're not going to grow. That
you need to blend with something else.
Sure, but there's like Viognier. We can buy Viognier from the high plains that is beautiful. And so there's not a reason for us to grow it here. But there's a lot of grapes that we only grow here or that nobody else grows.
Sure.
And so
we actually grow a grape that only one other person grows, and that's Doug Lewis over at Lewis Wines, and that's a Rento. It's a grape, and shout out to Doug Lewis for choosing that variety. I found that out Andy did too, after we put the vines in the ground.
We thought we were brilliant. And we found out not even 5 miles away, they'd planted 6 acres of it.
How long had he had it?
He has
Years.
No,
2 or 3 years before us.
He has 2 acres of it, and he's done real well with it. So anyway, hey, the thing to look at it is this: it's like Texas probably isn't the best place to grow grapes in the world.
It's actually one of the worst.
Yeah, we can get away with it, and we have good seasons and we have bad seasons. Those bad seasons, we learn to make really good wine, and there's nothing foo-foo about it. There's nothing romantic about it. It's an agricultural process. There's nothing mystical about it.
I'm going to question.
So here's the thing, though.
It's a little bit mystical. Come on.
It's a little bit mystical.
The winemaking process, not the growing the grapes. That's
growing the grapes is science, and it's agriculture, and it's hard work.
And Michael and I have gotten arguments about this before because he's heard me say, "Hey, it's grapes will grow anywhere, and the rest is magic." I don't mean it like that. Grapes don't grow anywhere. Grapevines can grow anywhere.
Sure,
but grapes,
you have to have everything perfect to make those grapes come in.
Yeah.
If it's not perfect or if it's not close to perfect, then you get nothing or you get something
shitty quality grapes.
Yeah, some shitty quality grapes. Winemaking, there's a bit of magic in that. I don't care what he says from this point forward. I'll argue with him, but there's a bit of magic. There's a little bit of luck. You can know exactly what you're doing, but in the end, there's a little bit of that fairy dust, and he'll argue with me and say bullshit, but it really is because
just learn how to keep your hands off of it. Keep your fingers out of the dough.
Exactly correct.
Keep your fingers out of the cake or whatever.
Exactly correct. And Michael says that every year. He's like, "Look, I don't think we should do anymore. I think we've done it."
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you about, you made the general statement that you can't, typically good grapes don't grow in Texas or shouldn't. You might get them to.
Wild grapes are actually native.
Mustangs.
But, Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Brunson.
There you go.
Munson.
Damn, Munson.
Big state, Texas. And when you start going West Texas to the high plains and those, you get that big variation in heat during the day and the
elevation,
elevation, all of that. So do you kind of slice up the state a little bit and go, is it variety based?
Okay, I'm going to lay it down real simple. So in the hill country,
tough to grow grapes.
Here it is. Tough to grow grapes in the hill country.
Humidity.
But humidity. You have this beautiful terroir, though.
Everything that can go wrong.
Beautiful soils. Okay, you have beautiful soils in the hill country. You have a beautiful, great weather. I mean, you have some monsoonal things going on with
pretty girls.
The Gulf.
I was about to say women,
and humidity, and all that. But the hill country would be perfect if it would just chill out at night. If the temperature would go down at
Drop
night,
below
this
90?
would be a just beautiful,
Drop to
world-renowned
60 or 50
wine.
or something. Yes.
Yeah.
We have limestone. We have schist in the dirt. We have these beautiful, beautiful soil layers that are perfect for growing grapes in the state. But we don't have those cool nights. Now, sometimes you do. That's why I think the Hill Country would be is an amazing place to grow rosé or make rosé wine, and it's a beautiful place to grow white grapes. I want to grow more white grapes, and we make a lot of rosé already. The red wines,
It's difficult.
I still think that we have a long way to go, but I think that the High Plains has its own little set of
Varieties.
has its own little unique difficulties.
Those microclimates over there.
Their advantages are they have the diurnal cool nights. They don't have as many pests. They don't have as many rainfalls and humidity that mess them up.
Okay, well let's dive into wines that are available for the listeners right now. If they're going to come in, no, let me back up before we go there. Let's talk about where we're recording. I mean, you guys have built a great. I don't even want to call it a facility. How would you describe this room, this building, this tasting room? I mean, it's just fantastic. The architecture, the design.
Don't tell anyone that this is Cyprus. We could go to jail.
Okay.
No, it's a joke.
It's not Michael's
Cyprus
design.
from
Whose
New
design
Orleans.
Was this?
Andy designed this.
Andy designed this. Okay. So what's the influence here? Cause it's really unique when you start talking about colors and layout and things like that. It's you don't see a lot like this.
Well, I've always wanted to build something modern, and I've always wanted to build something with a Scandinavian feel to it and part of it. And so this building allowed me to scratch that itch and chase those. And I have to say, like, all of the woodwork in here was done by a good friend of ours, Andy Zinn, who listened to what I said and then took it to a whole nother level.
And his son helps out.
His son, Zach, was the blonde-haired, long-haired kid you saw in here when you first arrived, probably helped you outside.
Yeah.
And
so he's helped out in the last 2 harvests, so he's helped make wine, pick grapes.
And I just told him that you're working 1 day a week, 2 days a week in the tasting room and 4 days a week in the vineyard. And he was like, okay, but can I sometimes work 3 days a week in the tasting room and 3 days a week in the vineyard? Because it's air conditioned during the summer.
Oh yeah.
So he was like,
big difference.
He was like, this is the shit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know crap about wine. I'm 18, but it's air conditioned.
So future employees, get ready to get that slave drive on. We're gonna whip you. You gotta do this shit right.
We're never going to hire more people, I guess. But
not after that.
So the building was a lot of fun, and there were so many things in here that happened by chance that we didn't even expect that just came out to make the place a better feel, a better room, and none of this.
Don't hire an architect or design person. Sorry, architects and design people.
Hey, we feel the same way.
Yeah, you don't.
You don't know what we do for a real job.
That's all right. You don't need a middleman.
No, we feel the same way.
So
anyway,
but that sometimes it costs extra money because it's all on a fucking napkin. And
in my opinion, they're trying to design something that looks good in their portfolio. They could give a shit about what you want.
And this place would not look good. This place would not look good on paper.
Yeah.
Because how would you know where the views are?
Right.
On paper. How would you know where the sun sets on paper?
Sure.
But that drives people crazy. Like, hey, we're going to put windows here. They're like, what are you talking about? That's a trapezoid. And I'm like, it's a fucking trapezoid. The whole building's a trapezoid.
Yeah.
We're going to put windows here. That doesn't make sense, Andy. It doesn't have to make sense. We're just going to build
where we want the window.
Exactly right. Yeah. So, and the same with the colors. I remember with this wall over here got built first. And as far as the paneling, and I'm explaining this over the radio on the podcast, but it's
the ham radio.
CQ, W9NUQ.
I thought you were going to give a WKRP in Cincinnati reference.
Oh, that was a call out to our father. So.
Oh, okay.
But the silver paneling, and then the red, and then the whatever that is, bronze. My dad calls me one day and he says, "Hey, Andy, they've kind of put that wall up. I'm going to send you some pictures. Are you sure you like this?" I looked at it and I said, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. He's like, well, wait. Are you sure that's what you like? I said, Dad, I don't know. I drew it up. He's like, well, they're going to build all of it. I said, Dad, I don't give a shit. Let's just go with it. And he was like, oh, God. About 5 days later, he's like, that looks all right. You didn't say it looked good, but for Dad, that's a compliment.
Kind of 80s-y.
So for your dad, that looks
like
all right.
1980s.
Means fucking amazing, son.
No, our father is a engineer, and an engineer to the nth degree. You can't define engineer more than my father. And for him, anything that doesn't include plans and doesn't include planning, because lots of our stuff doesn't include planning, is just foreign to him. So the process of building something without plans is something that was outside of his wheelhouse, but he's learned to adapt, and he's done well with it. And his biggest comments are, I don't know, but okay. So...
Well, I think you've done great. I think it's a great look in here. It's comforting. You come in, you feel comfortable, and it's inviting. You want to come in and sit and stay a little while.
So Michael and I talked early on. We put our webpage up, by the way, like in 2017. Here's what I think, and I believe Michael's on board. You can have world-class wines, but if you give a shitty place to stay and shitty place to drink that wine, people will leave and say, that was a pretty good wine.
Yeah.
And you can have a great place and mediocre wine, and people will say, that's a great place, but it's mediocre.
We make some badass mediocre wine, so get over here. 1000 South Ranch Road, 1623, from 4 to 6. Ladies' Night, Wednesday. Sunday. I just had to say that because that's what Andy reminds me of. But you can have mediocre wine in a great place.
Well, you didn't, like always, you never let me finish the
That's
fucking
why I'm the
sentence.
little brother.
It's almost
Exactly
like you're married.
correct. It is almost like we're married. In fact, 10 years of marriage counseling has helped me greatly.
There you go.
So, what I was going to say to finish that was, wait, what are we talking about? No, I'm kidding. Look, in the end, it's. I actually did forget.
You want both
4 to
experiences.
6 Wednesday night. Ladies' Night.
You want great wine and a great place to experience it.
I think the two have to go together.
Yeah.
And if they don't go together, then you've missed something. And there's a lot of places that have wonderful wine. And so I think that wonderful wine and a great place to experience it, the experience is as much as the setting, and the wine makes that, and wine is the time machine. And I think it's because of the setting you're in. 10 years from now, I hope that you remember not only the wine and the bourbon that we're drinking right now, copious amounts of bourbon, and that you're taken back. If there's a flavor or a scent or a smell or a taste on that palate that you have, you say, oh, that reminds me of that stupid fucking night I was talking to Michael and Andy Bilger at Adega Vinho.
So it's like hospitality is a fleeting
He
thing.
didn't get that.
Service is fleeting. Like that's a dying. Like most people don't know what service is until they're taught, and that's why they go get a pendulum or whatever and tell people that they're really good at service because they passed a test. That's stupid. Service is just being nice to people, knowing a little bit about what you're pouring, and creating a
space
for them to it's called
hospitality.
Hospitality is what it's called.
You wanted to spit
it's
that
called
second part out.
hospitality, and it's just catering to.
And I think some of the biggest compliments.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple.
Some of the biggest compliments we've received here is, you know what? The wine was excellent, and I love this place. And the server, he didn't tell me what I was supposed to taste. She didn't tell me what I was supposed to taste. She just said, that's great. This is what I taste, or this is what I experience. And that's what we want. We want a place where you can come in and drink wine. It's not a highbrow environment. We're not going to hold you if you say
Pinkies aren't up.
No, some of ours are. But if you say Tempranillo, we're not going to correct you.
Okay, fair enough.
If you say,
Because I actually like to hear people say that. To be honest with
It's
you,
a Texas twang.
it's a
it
Texas
is.
twang, and
Yeah.
it's nice because people are excited about drinking Tempranillo.
Yeah,
or
so
Tempranillo.
and he's going to go, that's what I said, Tempranillo.
And who cares? right? I mean, like you like it or you don't like it. That's actually the most, that's the thing that makes the most sense to me. Like, I liked it. Okay, great. I didn't like it. Why? I'd like to know. I mean, I don't always ask if somebody doesn't like something, but the biggest thing is you enjoyed it, and that's what we're shooting for here.
Let me get another glass of that Myrtle Little.
Myrtle Little.
Let me get some of that Myrtle Little.
And some of that Wagner. What? He was a great composer. What? No, Vinho. Oh, absolutely.
But people palates are different, and that's what makes the world go around. You're not going to like everything. Yeah. You're going to find things you like and some things you don't, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Look, when we started, I thought, if people like one or two of the 8 or 6 or whatever wines we're serving on our tasting menu, then we've hit a home run.
Yeah.
If somebody likes one of them, we've done great.
Here's the business plan. 1 out of 10 are going to be excellent. The other 9 are going to suck. But I'm telling you, Wednesday night is ladies' night, 4 to 6.
But to your point on the business plan, it's on the website, and I saw that. 1 out of 10 will be great.
That's exactly what it says.
But to your point, mentioning business plan, I do think that's impressive.
On a leap year. On a leap year. Don't forget the leap year.
You guys put that out, that you're very transparent about what you're trying to do here and what you're trying to accomplish.
2017, I'm a firm believer in it. And, it's a discussion that takes place here all the time. But I want people to remind us if we veer from that plan. I want people to tell us, hey, look, I saw your wine at HEB. You lied on your webpage. I want people to say, hey, you're doing exactly what you said. I want to know that transparency is important to us. And there's a lot of bullshit in business, and there's a lot of bullshit in wine, and we're trying to cut out as much of that bullshit as we can. And when we're wrong, I want to know about it.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
So,
but back to you. Go ahead. What do we got for a singles night?
Wednesdays have just extended to Thursday.
Wednesdays is ladies' night. When do we have singles night?
Saturday, 5 o'clock.
Saturday, 5 o'clock.
Adega Vinho.
Nacho bar for all the singles.
Okay, and swingers?
Bring your sausage.
Swingers across the street at the other winery.
All right.
Get out of here, swingers.
You guys,
just joking. Come in and drink some wine.
We got to get him off the bourbon.
All right. Hey,
this was the guy that...
It's more funny.
Yeah, he said... Hold on. This is the guy when we were in break that said, hey, seriously.
Quit horsing around.
Andy, when we come back on...
Andy, shut the fuck up.
Let's be a little serious about
exactly
this.
Right.
Yeah, so just so it's getting called out on the podcast.
Please call me out on this.
Rob, I knew I loved you.
Yeah. But no, you have a great facility, great space inside, but you also got a great space outside. Do you guys do anything, during certain times of the year where you have a barbecue or a food truck?
So we do have
music?
Awesome wine club pickups, and we really take the extra mile to make sure that we have some really good food. Like this upcoming wine club pickup, we have Barton Barbecue. It's a good friend of ours, JB, the Driftwood. He's coming out and he's doing some beer, street tacos. He's doing
a stuffed quail,
and some amazing
pork chop with a smoked apple chutney.
Yes.
So that's not just a pickup. That's a come hang out.
That's come hang out.
You take your wine.
We
noon to 4.
We close for the day.
Okay,
we close to customers, and it's just wine club members.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Noon to 4. We're gonna have a good time, eat good food.
And let me say this. Our goal is not to have 50,000 wine club members. Our goal is to have less than 1,000 wine club members, because we want to know the wine club members. We want to have a relationship with as many as we can. That's not always possible. But our goal is not to expand our business by having 22,000 wine club members in 10 years.
Everyone's got a calculator. It's easy to do some math.
Sure.
And so you could do math all day, but you have to have fun going to work, and you have to enjoy what you're doing. And the only way that we can truly keep our thumb on everything is doing smaller production, lower yields, and that's really the way
Rob,
to do it.
I'd like to ask you a question.
Sure.
What makes you do what you want? Do this? What makes you want to do this and talk to people?
Well,
because I've looked at your catalog, and you've interviewed and talked to a wide variety of people who are. Michael. Don't punch me, but they're far fucking smarter than we are.
Way smarter than me.
Yeah. So
yeah,
what brings you here? What brings you to do this as your advocation? Because I know it's not your vocation.
Two things, and one is the most important, and then let me highlight that one. Then we'll get to the second one. Wednesday night, ladies' night. So this is
6 to 7.
a milestone that I've hit, being able to, get to know you guys so that now I can come on a Wednesday night. So I'm happy about that. No,
We actually have dance class on Wednesday night, and it's not pole dancing. But we do
is
have
that
ballroom
Thursday or
dancing.
Wednesday?
That's Wednesday.
Wednesday night, ballroom dancing, what night?
Pole dancing, what night?
Second and fourth Wednesday
Andy
of
said,
every
Andy
month.
said that's pole night. He wanted
No.
I don't know. We're accepting.
off the rails.
We're accepting applications for all positions.
People are listening going, that is a badass winery. I want to go over there and hang out with those guys. Yeah. No, but back to your question. Just like you guys, with wine, you have a passion for it, and it's something that you love to do. And my wife puts up with me. And
I can tell that
yeah,
already. Yeah,
God bless her. She's going to heaven.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
living in hell for all these years.
Penance. That's what she's
give me
doing
a
right
thumbs
now.
up. Yeah. She knows that I cook for her, and I clean as well. But anyway, I love to cook. I'm
Does
a
he
big
really
foodie
clean?
guy.
Oh, he does. No, he does not clean.
Okay.
That's a lie. Anyways, let's go on.
He cleaned shop with Elijah Craig and the Old Weller.
Exactly.
And
No,
that's all
I
he
love
had.
food, and love wine, love whiskey. Used to be big into craft beers, and still like a beer every once in a while. But, you get into Facebook, you get into all these groups, and a lot of it was just a point and click, and people would post, and I went to this winery, I went to this restaurant, the food was great, look what I ate. And kind of like art, I was saying this earlier, you see a piece of art, and you go, okay, that's awesome. What was behind that? What was the story to get to what you put on the canvas or the sculpture that you made? And I want to know that story.
You have 500 questions that you want to ask.
Yeah, so kind of food, wine, whiskey, kind of all fall into that category for me. Somebody putting out rockin' food at a restaurant. I'm like, okay, who are these people? What's the story? How did you get here? What's your passion that got you to doing this in this place? Wine, whiskey, And to me, you see a lot of groups and places and podcasts that focus on one. But I really believe they all go together. If you go into a restaurant, you're going to be able to have a wine and a cocktail or a whiskey or whatever. And you can kind of have that conversation about all of these things that go together. So it's just a passion of mine. And I knew I couldn't cook. I like to cook at home. I think I do a fairly decent job cooking. But I knew I wasn't going to have
She's shaking her head yes.
I wasn't going to have a restaurant. I
She
wasn't
said
gonna
no
open a
on
winery.
cleaning.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I said, how can I get involved in this community? And this was a way that I said, I think this is what I want to do. So,
Well, that's very cool because, one, you're very good at asking questions. And two, you're very great at bringing really badass bourbons with you.
so you want to do a follow-up show?
I think that should be kind of a little segue into the final part of this. Like, we just drank what, and what does that mean to you? I mean, we've been plying you with wine all evening, but that bourbon was freaking spectacular. And so what are we moving into next?
Okay, so we started off, like we said at the beginning of this segment, with the single barrel from E.H. Taylor, and I'm kind of running you through proof. So that was the first one. This validates to everybody that we're not just chugging bourbon. We're still sipping that first one.
I've had 6 glasses.
Chug, chug. So the progression from here would be, let's go to the Four Roses, which is 104 proof. So we're just going to tick it up a little bit, not too much.
That sounds some lightweight shit, Rob.
So E.H. Taylor is a Buffalo Trace. All of these you won't find on a shelf. You're not going to walk in a liquor store, big chain or not, and find these on the shelf. But
That has some amazing viscosity to it.
it does, huh?
It really does.
I'm just going to hit that button. Viscosity. I thought
You wanted this one?
yes, I was looking for that.
Instead, he played the porno music.
I thought the lights were going to dim.
Let me tell you about that.
I was like, damn, one button off.
Let me tell you about
That's
the
what she
resistance
said.
to water. That's the measurement of it, baby. Yeah.
So what you have here is Four
You know what I'm
Roses.
talking about, resistance to water. Yeah, viscosity. What's up, everyone here at the science aspects? Yep. No hand raising.
So
He's like, I drove all the way here for this.
By the way, if you
I
want to
just
talk
keep
about
going back to that.
nerdy
We're gonna
wine
be
stuff
serious.
all day, if you want to talk about nerdy wine, I love talking about that.
Yes, we do.
So if you want to come out here and come visit us and have more of a serious conversation.
Did you say nerdy or dirty?
Both.
Well, nerdy, but
It gets dirty.
it probably does.
Fingers are in the dirt.
That's what she said.
No, Wednesday.
Okay, so what you have in your glass now is
That's totally different.
Yeah, it's going to be totally different. That's Four Roses. So do you know anything about Four Roses?
No, nothing.
So they have 2 yeast strains and 5 mash bills. So they make 10 different recipes. And if you get a single barrel at the store, it's always OBSV. But what bourbon connoisseurs like to do is find when a group or a store goes to Four Roses out in Kentucky and picks a single barrel just for them, you don't get to know what recipe you're getting. You taste through 6 or 8 barrels, and when you pick the one you like, then they'll reveal to you this is a OBSO or an OESO or an OESK or whatever the recipe is. And once you've picked that barrel, they'll barrel it and send it back to you. So this one is a blend of Brent's, he's the head distiller there, 6 recipes he picked out to blend into this bourbon, and it's a limited edition yearly release. This one's from 2019.
So, Rob, I want to pick your brain on this.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell you what I'm tasting on my tongue, but there's a lot of like mid-palate fire. So I'd like to hear what you think.
Spiciness.
Spiciness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to hear. I'd like to hear what your taste profile is of this. Because
So when you say fire, is it the ethanol, the
ethanol,
alcohol?
yes.
Okay, so it's your palate still. You probably don't drink a lot of bourbon.
I don't. I was introduced to Scotch on a trip to Scotland. That was the first time I'd ever been able to choke it down, and by the end of a 10-day trip, I was like,
Choke it down.
That's what she said.
At the end of it, I was like,
Just stop talking, Eddie.
I appreciate it. Like I really did at the end. But by the 10th day, I was like, okay, I see where this fits into my drinking profile.
Sure.
Pints, lots of pints, and then a nice Scotch at the end. And I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Scotches are typically 80 to might push 90 proof,
So
unless you get something cast strength.
120?
This is 104.
Oh, okay.
So I'm kind of keep you there. There's bourbons that can, to be classified as a bourbon, you have to be at least 80 proof.
Okay.
Not very many. It's like anything else. When you make bourbon, you have a barrel entry proof that you put it in barrel, and it changes from distiller to distiller. Usually at 125 proof not usually. That's the max. A lot of places will do that.
That's Everclear after that?
Well, it's Everclear it's moonshine before it goes in. Yeah, we call it White Dog.
God love this. This
So-
is the best thing I've ever experienced in my life.
So if you think about it this way, it'll go in the barrel, say, anywhere between 110 and 125. And, it's going to sit in a warehouse. It's going to be there for no less than 2 years, but it could
Turning
be
the
up to
brown
12.
liquor.
The sweet spot for bourbon right now, a lot of us think, is that 6 to 9 year range. You really get some good stuff. There is that perception that older means better. If you get a 15-year-old bourbon, that's got to be great. It's usually pretty good, but it doesn't mean it's great.
Right.
But when you have that angel share, you guys know the angel share. It's going to evaporate and go away, so you're left with whatever it is. Say it comes out of the barrel and it's proofing at 138.
We lose 2 liters a month per
Yeah,
barrel.
there you go.
I always thought Michael was taking
heavens.
it. Yeah, I thought he was taking it home and drinking it. And I was like, come on, Michael, what the hell? He's like, dude, it's the angel share.
So if you have a bourbon come out of the barrel and just say 125, it went in at 114 and it came out at 125, and now you're going to proof it down to 80. Well, to proof it down, all you're doing is putting in some limestone water, and so you're losing all that flavor. Well, a lot of us think you're losing all that flavor. It's diluted.
Right.
So you don't see a lot of bourbon people drink at 80 proof. Now, it gets back to weather, right? Because of the barrels and the heat here in the States. When you get to Scotland, it's so cold and damp and wet that they don't have the same evaporation that we have here.
Peat moss.
So, yeah, you got the peat. So you can have that. You don't have to proof it back down. Their barrel entry might be different kind of still, pot still. And so the flavor can hold up a little bit better at a lower proof. I brought you a little bit higher proof things just to kind of, you said you kind of drank bourbon, so I thought if I was in that 100 proof kind of range, we might be all right. I did bring one bad boy, the E.H. Taylor barrel proof. That might make the hair really grow on your chest. But
Shit. I don't know if I can take any more hair on my chest.
And then I brought this Elijah Craig Batch 12 Old Pirates label that is 136 proof.
You know, all I have to say is hell yeah. Let's drink our way.
You're not a man
these.
unless you do.
Yeah. You've already
Challenge accepted.
You've thrown the card down.
Okay.
All right.
So yeah, that's a little bit about the bourbon.
Well, very cool. So what got you into bourbon?
Wine. Big wine guy. My wife got me into wine. And then, I feel like the tables have turned here.
Well, it's kind of interesting to us. I'd like to know from your standpoint, you were in wine and now you're in bourbon.
Yeah. So I used to, I had some buddies that were wine people too, but they got me into kind of whiskey. Mm-hmm. And I say whiskey because it was Crown Royal.
Yep.
And it was a mixer, so we might cook.
A beautiful blend from Canada.
A beautiful blend. Black Label was my jam right there.
That's good.
But we would, always have a little Crown and Coke. And I used to be that guy where, I would pour this much Coke and put a little splash of Crown. Yep. And as I got used to it, it was like, this much Crown and just a little splash of Coke.
The Coke was just color.
Yeah, make you think I'm not drinking too heavy. Yeah. But then it evolved into, finding out about some bourbon groups on Facebook or somebody mentioned it to me and starting to do some research. And I started looking into drinking them neat and just exploring a little bit and nosing and understanding the process of how they make it. It's not from the terroir as much. It's more from the barrel.
Right.
And then your recipe as you distill. But once you get past that, how you enjoy the drink on the nose in the right type of glass, things like that, the different profile, very much the same. Yeah. And so the transition from wine to the bourbon just kind of made sense, and I enjoyed both for different reasons, still do. So
when you come home from work at night, what's your go-to on a Wednesday? You had a hard time at the office. Is wine paired with your enjoyable moments, or is it a bourbon?
No, I love wine with food. So my rule is, and my wife can tell you, spend time. I like to cook. So my routine is when I'm cooking, whether it's outside on the grill or inside in the kitchen prepping and doing stuff, I'm drinking some bourbon.
Yeah. Oh, bourbon.
I'm drinking some bourbon, just prepping and getting ready. But once we're ready to sit down and eat, and we're going to spend the next 2 hours having food and conversation. Now we're popping bottles of wine.
Nice.
And that's kind of our routine.
I'm gonna try to switch out Michael beer for bourbon while we're cooking barbecue. Sweetie, that means we might eat at 2:30 in the morning instead of 9 o'clock or 10. She's giving me the hell no.
I used to be a huge beer guy, and you can tell I'm fat. So, but it's so heavy now. I still like a beer. I'll get done mowing the yard, or it's just a hot day, and I'll sit out
Nothing better than American lager, man.
Or a Pils. Or an IPA.
Are you, when you say American, tell me what you're meaning by
American lager.
American lager.
Craft American?
Well, you can be a craft American. Okay. Just something on the lighter palate, just like.
I'll go over to a friend's house. He goes, "You want a Coors Light?" And I go, "I got a bottle of water, thank you."
Yeah. Well.
So we have a really good friend who's Michael's known since he's like 7 years old, and he worked for a brewery, whatever. But he
likes lighter beer.
About 5
People
years.
are going, I thought this show was about wine.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I told you, I'm sitting at a restaurant in Fredericksburg, and people come up to me. They're like, "I can't believe you're drinking a beer."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What the fuck? I love beer. In fact, wine is made by drinking fucking beer."
That's exactly right.
Hey, really quick though, this Tempranillo right here. I just want to talk about this because we grew this Tempranillo. It's 86% Tempranillo, 14% Touriga Nacional. Both of those vines, 2019 Estate Tempranillo.
It's not really released, but we're pouring it.
It's not released. We're pouring it and we're selling it, but it's not released. It's not on our tasting menu. We're probably going to pull it off because we have some other Tempranillos to put out. And this wine needs to open up and needs some extra time in the cellar. That's why we're going to pull it back and put it away for another year. But, one of the beautiful things about being an alcoholic and switching back from bourbon to wine.
I was seeing how you're gonna cut this.
See this
segue tie it together. Yes,
so
the segue is okay.
Go with bourbon it, has honestly opened up my palate to be more than it has been in the last 20, 30 minutes.
Well, shit,
that
I'm
we've
going
been talking.
to have to try this out then.
And there's a lot of mysterious black fruit on that wine that wasn't there earlier because it was tight grained. It needed some time to open up.
So
that's why
and Michael, you make
I
a
want
great.
Mr.
You
Go ahead.
I
steered
was going
a,
to say you make a great point because I have a big bourbon buddy up in the New York, New Jersey area. He's done some shows with us on our other podcast, Bourbon Rye Not, and he's into wine too. And he says if he's going to do a bourbon blind or if he's going to have some nice pours that night, he always starts with a wine.
Yeah.
And he says just that
kinda
contrast from
opens it up
that
a little bit.
to kind of get the palate going, to warm it up a little bit, and then go to bourbon. He says it's just, and so I've actually taken his advice on that, and it's.
I never like to give my brother credit, but sometimes he's really right.
Well,
I think it's right.
you're pretty much right sometimes.
Whatever.
But go ahead. We need to pour you a glass of this. Where's your glass at?
I was gonna say that the cool part the cool part to me is your wife took it.
You take my wine?
I'm gonna take the headphones off and get you a glass.
So we're drinking right now on the wine portion of the show.
So let's go through real quick and let everybody listening, the tasting room now and for the next, I don't know how far out you can go, a month, 2 months. Mm-hmm. What's going to be in the tasting room when they come in, things they can look forward to, and is that mine? Things they can look forward to and know going to be available to them to try.
So we're about to change up our tasting menu for a little bit. So we've been on the same.
Talk about what we have and then talk about what's coming up.
Okay, so what's on the menu right now? We have our 2019 Viognier, which is a High Plains Viognier, which is 1/3 barrel fermented, 2/3 tank fermented, and stainless steel tank.
People don't know that's a white wine.
It's a white wine. Viognier is very similar to Chardonnay in the fact that in France it grows next to it.
Here it's an underappreciated wine.
Yes, and
it's a beautiful.
It's a blend in champagne, and it's also the most.
Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, Michael.
Brotherly love.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's the Chardonnay of Texas. It's the most ubiquitous white grape grown in Texas, other than Blanc du Bois, and everybody out here has a version of Viognier. Now, Michael, go ahead.
Viognier does well in Texas, and so we're always going to be producing a Viognier. Now, last year we didn't produce a Viognier because we couldn't get a hold of any of the fruit. And so this year, but instead we made Chardonnay from Texas,
which is
a great Chardonnay.
By the way, I'm like one of the biggest Chardonnay snobs, and when you came into the winery, our first 2 or 3 months when we opened, and somebody said, "Do you have a Chardonnay or a Cabernet Sauvignon?" I'd say, "Hey, look, if you want that, you got to go somewhere else. We don't produce those two wines because you can't produce a very good one," which is bullshit because I had one of our very good friends, Ron Yates, and Todd Crowell over at Ron Yates Winery produced a double gold Cabernet Sauvignon. You can only do that out of Texas every 5 to 6 years.
Oh, really?
And it beat everybody that you would think it would beat. And Chardonnay. It's one of those things that we never thought we would get good grapes. We never thought we'd be able to make a good Chardonnay. And Michael called me one day traveling through a vineyard that we know and said, "Hey, look, Andy, I think there's some pretty good Chardonnay grapes here. They're 25-year-old vines. The clusters look good. And, like 6 weeks from now, I think we'll know whether they're great or not. Should we go ahead and try to grab them?" And I said, "Michael, use your best judgment." So he said, "I'm going to grab them." Okay. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, we've made some white wine. It's not going to be Chardonnay because there's no fucking way in the world that we're going to call it Chardonnay unless it tastes like Chardonnay and it smells like Chardonnay. If it's not Chardonnay, we're not doing it. Fast forward 7 months.
That's good. It looks like Chardonnay.
It doesn't
Tastes
look.
like
It doesn't look like Chardonnay. It has the nose of Chardonnay immediately, right off the bat. There's no doubt. And we made a buttery. Michael made a buttery, oaky Chardonnay, and it's fucking beautiful.
Oh.
And
How would it
it's
hold?
It's not just me. There's a lot of people that think that sommelier is included from the barrel.
All right. Hey,
You-
edit
no,
this
no.
part out, and let's just, hey,
We
we'll
gotta do
get
a
it in
blind.
bottle, and we'll
You know
talk
which
about
one
it
I-
when it's in the bottle.
Rob, I'm going big on this.
All right,
I
look.
think it's very, very good Chardonnay.
You know which one I was gonna
Don't butter my biscuits unless it's next to bacon and eggs. All right.
Very good Chardonnay.
Anything else?
We're making 3 tons of that this year, so
I'm still
we got to make
visualizing the buttered biscuit.
the
and
buttery biscuits
and
next
the
to bacon and eggs.
You really don't want to. You don't want to visualize that.
So we made 1 ton of that Chardonnay this year, and we're gonna make 3 tons, hopefully, if God willing,
And so
Mother Nature does her thing
We
right.
we stored it in puncheon. So
But look, everyone's good at tying their shoes, okay? But who's better at double knotting, right? Okay, so we got a little technique.
Wait, what the fuck does that mean?
Just want to let everybody know
All right.
we're on the second wine
When-
in the tasting room.
When you're really good at tying your shoes, that's one thing. But when you're good at double knotting, that's another. And that's the way I look at wine. It's like you should. if you
Are we
want-
double
yeah.
knotting or are we double tying?
We double tying, right?
Okay.
Okay.
I don't want to knot my shoes.
Yeah.
Crazy motherfucker.
I'm just saying.
Okay, so we've got a Chardonnay that's in the tasting room now.
So back
2
to
months.
yeah, 2 months it'll be
In
the
2
tasting
months
room.
it'll be in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So right now, if you come to the tasting room, we're gonna have a 2019 Viognier that we just released. We're also gonna have our 2019 Alvarinho, which
Okay.
is very similar to Vino Verde, just a little bit longer time in tank.
And people who haven't had that
It's just,
particular varietal, Spanish varietal, white wine.
It's just it's a white wine. That,
Iberian Peninsula.
yeah, it's
That covers
It's a
Portugal
white
and
wine.
Spain.
It's a little bit of a spicier white wine. If you want to think of a little bit of tannin integration, it's also 1/3 barrel fermented. Excuse me. Rosés.
We got a bunch of really good rosés coming up.
We have an estate rosé coming up that's 90% Sangiovese and 10% Arento. Arento is a native grape species to the Iberian Peninsula that, as of right now, only Doug Lewis calls it. So.
and the TTB told us we cannot call it Arento.
So
For
it's
now.
a state rosé.
We have this fabulous white grape from Portugal.
It's a Provence rosé.
Can you not put it anywhere on the label or just can't put it on the front of the
You
label?
can't put it on the front of the label.
Okay, that's what I thought.
You can put it on the romance
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
It's whole cluster.
Can you put a big arrow that says, look here?
You could. That would be cool. I'd like that.
I wish I would have thought about that 2 weeks
There you
ago,
go.
Rob.
Yeah. Get me in on some of these. Yeah.
Trademark that.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be a very limited release as we only have about 20 cases of it left because we drank the other 4.
That was all in research
Yeah.
just to make
So
sure.
that's a problem for us. Like Michael calls up, hey, Andy, this is the most banging rosé we've ever made. It's made out of a
And I drink like a bottle a day.
So I come over, and then like 2 weeks later, he's like, dude, there's only 20 cases left. We only mate a barrel. What the hell? But we do have a lot of rosés.
we also have another beautiful rosé from the Hill Country. It's
Does he always cut you off?
It's a
like that?
Syrah
absolutely.
and
That's
Merlot.
the little brother thing.
Is it?
It's a Syrah and Merlot.
You know what that makes him, right?
You're the worst fucking player on the team.
I'm like the bitch goalie who I'm like, yeah.
Put him in.
Defense, baby, defense. It's all about that defense. Oh, that could be.
It's
bad.
all about the D.
That's what she said.
It's all about the defense.
Kick the door open on that one.
As the little dude crying walks out the door.
All right,
Anyway.
next wine in the tasting room.
So we got rosé. So you have the Syrah and the Merlot from the Hill Country. That's Texas Hill Country. We bought a Texas Hills is what I was trying to say.
It's a vineyard very close to here.
In
that
Johnson City.
made a lot of
Beautiful
rosé.
beautiful Syrah, beautiful Merlot. And that's a 50-50 direct press, co-fermentation, like 13% alcohol, Provence style. So it was whole cluster, hand-picked, direct press, barrel fermented, ml in the bottle, full ml. So it's got some buttery notes, but it's not,
bit surly.
surly.
Explain surly.
Surly is just cellared on the fine lees. So it's the bits and particles of the grape, the dead yeast cells that are now hulls, I guess. They're floating
A
around.
little bit of batonage.
So batonnage is a fancy way of saying stirring in French.
French, yes. Just
You do
stirring.
like those French words.
Oh, I do.
Terroir.
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 Batonage.
Élevage.
Ménage à trois.
No, that's a shitty wine at HEB for $8.99.
Oh, very good. Very good.
And so
I was going to say Cold Dusac.
Hey, that's a good. Hey,
I knew I liked this guy the first time I met him. That's hilarious.
that is from Suburbia. Then we also have a one. So we at first I wanted to call it SM Rosé, and I thought
Actually, he said Andy S&M Syrah Merlot. And I was like,
Might not fly. TTB.
yeah. Well, they didn't like SM either, so it's just rosé now.
So then the other one was Tempranillo Syrah Merlot. So TSM, which was supposed to be a play on words, is
Like that
GSM,
too, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But that wasn't that cool.
Actually, that one.
Oh,
worked.
did it work?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, government let one through finally. Well, okay. So we have a Tempranillo, which is 60%, a Syrah, which is 20%, a Merlot. That's going to come out later. It needs a little bit more barrel cellar time. And then we have a Saignade Tempranillo Estate Rosé, which is just a big, fat,
thick rosé.
Really?
rosé that has a lot of tannins. So Saignade means that we bled
Suck
off
the juice.
from a crushed grape already. And so when I say direct press on those Provence-style rosés, which is the rest, we're taking the whole cluster, putting it in the press, and just directly pressing it. So it doesn't have, the juice doesn't touch the skin, or it doesn't touch the seeds a lot. With a Saignade rosé, we've already crushed the grapes. The juice has been sitting in its
Skins and seeds
skins
and crushed
seeds and crushed.
So it's a darker pink?
Yes.
Yeah, it's more on the redder
And it's a
side.
more full-bodied rosé.
Okay.
Yeah, if you close your eyes, it could be a very light red wine.
When you drink it, you're going to be like, oh, light Pinot Noir.
Okay.
It's got a lot of tannins.
That sounds interesting.
It's going to be a beautiful rosé.
It's a meaty rosé.
Nice.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
A pool pounder?
Pull
Is it definitely a pool pounder?
Is it a skirt dropper?
Skirt and jock dropper.
Oh, I'm
But
so
not panties.
sorry. That's back to the beginning
But
of
not
this
the
conversation.
panties.
It's an inside joke inside this building. Woo. But so that's our rosé. So when you come in here, then we're going to start off with something they call Pinot Fleury. Pinot Fleury is 100% Mourvèdre. Pinot Fleury is a synonym for Mourvèdre. It's a regional term that I have contacted a bunch of somms, a bunch of authors.
Wine Folly.
Wine Folly said that they
contacted
didn't
her?
know.
Wine Folly said, don't name your wine that.
Yeah,
So
even though it's a
Michael and-
synonym. So
Michael
we
and I
immediately
looked-
did.
Yes, we were like, fuck that. Let's do it.
And so,
'Cause it made sense, right?
So the one psalm that I contacted just over Facebook, and I can't remember, I can't give credit to anyone, thinks that it's from northern Italy. Mourvèdre's planted in every wine growing region in the world.
When you say northern Italy, are you talking about like by Piedmont with Nebbiolo and all that?
I'm not going to tell you exactly
Okay.
where. So northern Italy.
French, Italy.
Yeah, the Piedmont
Yeah.
area.
So supposedly there is regional names for Mourvèdre in every village in every that area, and Pinot Fleury means small flirt.
But the biggest thing about that was
in Latin.
when we made it in a Pinot Noir style. So
Yeah.
it's a very light red, and we kind of
Cool fermentation temperatures.
handled it in the way
Are the
that
skins thin like a
yes.
Pinot?
And they were the grapes that we had were. So that's one of the things we looked at, and we said, look, let's just do this in a Pinot Noir style. We made it in the Pinot Noir style, put it in a bottle 12 months later or whatever. And then we discovered that Pinot Noir, I'm so sorry.
Pinot Fleury is a synonym.
Is a synonym.
In Texas, we like to say that Mourvèdre is sort of like the Pinot Fleury of Texas. Or sorry,
Pinot
Pinot
Noir.
Noir of Texas.
Now we're really confusing people.
Oh, man. I'm confusing myself.
But in the end, what we ended up with was a wine that is
It doesn't
called
matter what it's called. It's a
Pinot
beautiful.
Fleury.
Yeah.
It's made in a Pinot Noir style, and people love it. And I can't tell you how many people have walked out of here and they give me a hug. They're like, Andy, that's the best Pinot Noir I've ever had. And for like the first 7 months, I was like, no. I already told you that's a
Pinot Fleury.
Yeah, it's Pinot Fleury. That's a Mourvèdre. And now I'm just like, look, you're having a great time. I'm not going to
Damn
step.
right it
I'm not
is.
going to step in the fucking way of it. So, all right, go
Yeah.
on.
But with
Drive
that,
safe.
with that saying that, my dream someday is to own a vineyard someday on like the West Coast that grows Pinot Noir.
Very cool.
That would be cool. Pinot Noir. So one thing I was
So
going
you're
to say.
talking about like Santa Barbara area?
I don't know exactly. But one of the things is that the world says if you're a winemaker, you have to know how to make, Pinot Noir, and you have to know how to make Chardonnay. If you can't make those two, you don't know how to make wines, right?
That's what California people say.
No, I think the French say you need to learn how to make those two.
No, they say something like
Burgundy. Burgundy says that.
They say something like
And so
And I'm
Andy
pretty
actually
sure-
speaks French fluently, and what that translated to was,
It's all bullshit.
I apologize. so you'll drink. So it starts off the Pinot Fleury, which is the lighter end of the spectrum, and then we bump up to a wine
Port de
called
Sol.
Port de Sol, which is just
and
Portuguese for sunset, and that's a sunset red wine that you need to drink. And
Rob,
come in here.
We
and try
named
it.
we named that wine sitting on the patio here.
Really? Yeah.
Before the building was built, but there was concrete, and we just said, "What are we going to call this?"
It's a
Port de
red
Sol.
wine. It's a red wine for port sitting in sunset drinking, and
Nice. I like it. The name,
know-
sounds cool.
And it's truly
You
what
s-
it is.
you sit down at a hot summer night and you want to drink a red wine. You're probably not going to go for the tannin bomb.
It's
You're
an
gonna go for
easy.
something
It's
an easy drink.
In fact, I always call it our Pinot Fleury and Port de Sol. I call it our gateway red.
Okay.
If you're a white lover, a rosé lover,
Trying to break in.
yeah, it doesn't smack you in the mouth with tannins. You're not confused by it. You're like, this is pretty good.
I call it
like
our
this.
getting wine.
Well, anyways,
That's my wife, what I call wine.
Getting.
what does Rob call wine?
What do I call wine?
Getting juice.
What do I call wine?
No, what? No, come on. Hey, we're drinking bourbon over here. Come on.
Sandra, what do I call wine? Yes, juice. She said, can I do this tonight? No. Can I do this tonight? No. How about now? Yes. Thank you.
I'm going to leave it up to the editor to tell you what she just said, but it was good. Rob, you're the man. Thank you.
And then the next wine on the list is going to be probably from lightest to from one spectrum to the other is going to be our Sangiovese, which is 100% Sangiovese. It spent about 3 weeks on the skins. It's a delicious
It is
wine,
delicious.
and I love it, and I'm very proud of it. And
You should be, because I had a guy in here the other day who said he was an Italian wine specialist. And
he liked that.
every time you hear that kind of shit, you're like,
Hey.
oh shit,
Ian.
I don't really want to hear this.
I'm doing the Jack in the Box
I
finger
know,
right here.
I know.
Next one.
But
next
anyways,
one.
I'm just gonna cut to the chase. He loved it, and he said, you know what? If I was gonna drink this, if I drank this and I didn't know where it was from, I would tell you it was from one of the outer reaches of Barolo, and I was like, holy crap. That's badass. He's like, I couldn't probably tell you the vineyard, but it was one of those southern Italy places. I was like, badass. That's
And also, this other dude told me that he was Matthew McConaughey's best friend the other day when he was in the tasting room.
I'm his best friend, too.
I thought so.
Yeah.
What was he?
Hook me up.
Was he?
McConaughey, come out here, man.
It's not just McConaughey. Joe Rogan, please come.
He's in the vicinity. We know you're out here, Joe. Get out here. Give us an autograph.
Rob
You
wants
guys
to
are
do
talking like he listens to my podcast.
Rob wants to do an interview with you and
yeah.
us.
Oh, hell yeah.
So after you're
I have to close down for the day.
after you're done with the Sangiovese, you should probably move on to I would say the
16
16 Tempranillo.
Except for
Reserve.
you can't move on to that because that's I mean literally, Michael.
Yeah.
That is the last 8 bottles.
The 16 Tempranillo Reserve, and that's a wine that we didn't really. I mean, it's evolved since we started selling it, but it's really evolved now.
No.
We won't talk about it too much,
It's
but-
evolved since we first made it.
Yeah.
And put it in barrel, and we never knew where it was going, but in the last year and a half, it's been
It's
spectacular.
an exceptional wine, and it's very people tell us it's the likes of a traditional Rioja. Then you go on to the 17 Tempranillo, which is just a beautiful, lively, tannic-driven Tempranillo. After you go through the 17 Tempranillo,
Wait. Riviera del Duero.
yeah, I would like to
I mean,
say
it's-
it's very regional.
No, I mean it's what people say, and it's what we made it to be like. It's a Spanish Tempranillo.
Did you see what Andy's
We did with the
I've moved on to the next bourbon.
nice
Suckers.
Oh yeah, I like the Old Weller. Here we are. So both Tempranillos have very
Old
small
Weller.
amount of American oak, new American oak, and mostly French oak driven.
That's
So-
a weeded bourbon there, Andy. So different than
Wait. What?
That's a wheated bourbon.
Weeded.
Yeah. So the recipe, the grains they use, bourbon is 51% corn or more. It has to be at least 51%, followed by usually rye and then some barley in there.
Okay. So
When we take out the rye and we substitute it with wheat, in the community we call it a wheated bourbon.
that's where I was confused. I thought there was THC possibly in this wine.
That's the brownie next to you.
Excuse me for a second.
Eat up.
Man, this nose is.
Now you're still on the Four Roses.
Oh, is this
limited
still the
edition.
Four Roses?
Yeah, you're on the
Wow.
Four
Well,
Roses.
this has really opened up to be like sugar.
I have to tell you that Weller, that's unbelievable.
Isn't that good?
That's very
That's
good.
it's
Hey,
it's
can
going
I
to be
get
a little bit
Some Weller in here.
sure.
I can't move on from that Four Roses with all that. I can move on, but I just can't drink that whole thing.
So the Four Roses was really peaty for me.
There you go.
This is super.
So, what? Done with the wines? We got another one. Sangiovese is one of our favorites, my wife and I.
So-
but in the tasting room now.
I'll go through it real quickly. Tempranillo, we have a Syrah, and then we have a Mourvedre Reserve. These things are wines that we've made that Michael and the guys in the winery have spent a lot of time with. Spent a lot of time in barrel with. Some of them are reserves. Reserve to us doesn't mean something super special. It just means we spent 18 to 24 months in barrel. And whether that's a New French or whether that's a third fill neutral oak, we think it gives layers to the wine that we
So
don't otherwise
it's kind of
get.
that old world when you think about Italian wines. If you're a Chianti but you're a Chianti Reserva, it's just extra age in the barrel
Just-
and the bottle.
Just a little bit more time.
Yeah. Okay. Same thing.
And so we don't know that more time makes it more special. But in the end,
I think with wine, time makes all bottles a little bit better.
I really do. You can get to a point where it doesn't make a difference.
Sure.
But for us, we like to release reds that are 3 years old, and no earlier. And we make enough wine where we think we can do that on a regular basis. And for us, that's the most important thing. We want to release wine that Michael and I will take home to our family, even though we're the same family, to our separate families, and enjoy that wine. Your wife's telling you, wrap it up.
Wrap it up. Wrap it up.
I don't know if she's saying it like
I think
that.
she's saying your wife wants to get out of here.
My wife always kicks me, but she's
I know my wife wants to get out of here.
Yeah, my wife
She
always.
wanted to get out of here 2 hours ago. We have a baby. He needs to be fed.
I have no babies.
Okay, so everybody heard us talking about, the Portugal influence here, but they're wondering why in the hell we haven't talked about.
Port.
Yeah.
So we're on a port project this year. That's Andy's project. We are going to use traditional port varieties in our port wine. So we'll use some Touriga Nacional. We'll also
Tinta
use Tinta Cal and some Susau.
And some Cab Franc.
Maybe a little Cab Franc. And so that's Andy's project.
And the alcohol you're going to put in it?
So the alcohol is going to be 2020 Tempranillo that has been distilled and possibly a little bit of Mourvedre from the estate.
Okay.
So we're
Actually, it's two. So we have some 19 and 20 that's distilled. I thought the first barrels
no,
were
it's going to be all 2020.
weird disagreement here. The Mourvedre is 21.
No, the Tempranillo that we distilled is 20.
Ah, perfect. There you go.
So
So we've distilled 2 barrels.
of 2020 Tempranillo.
We're going to do
estate.
2 barrels more of probably Mourvedre 2020.
So yeah, so we'll have 1 or 2 barrels of port.
Dose.
We'll have
2.
You have 2 barrels of port.
I think if we get what we were supposed to get from those 4 barrels,
Okay.
from all 4 barrels.
Yeah.
And
So right
that's-
now we have about 8 gallons of distilled spirits at about 78%. So we need about double that to have 2 barrels. And so that'll be the 2020 distilled spirits from our estate, which will go into a port wine that will be from our first harvest of our 2021 harvest on those 3 varieties. And it should be a nice wine.
So one of the things that I want to do.
Dessert wine.
Yeah, so one of the things I want to do, we want to do is to do a traditional port. So a traditional port, we're going to do a 3-year port. So this is 2021. It'll be 2024 before we open it up. But we think it's going to be a beautiful port. There's not a lot of folks that have the constituents that make a traditional port that are making port in Texas. And so we're going to give it our best try, and we're going to do it every year.
We have all 3 here.
Yeah,
or all 4.
We're going to do it for a barrel or 2 every year. And
I think that's great.
It's going to be something that I hope people enjoy. And, you know, I love port. Michael, I actually don't even know if you'd like that much port, but
I like port, but, you know, I'll be honest with you.
No. Have you been lying this whole time?
I was going to say, I was just about to
I'll be honest with you.
What the fuck?
Starting now, huh?
Oh, shit.
Here's what I like. I enjoy some Texas Maduras. I enjoy those. I've had a few ports that you and your son, Christian, have poured us, but my knowledge of port is very slim to none because it's just not something that I drink a lot. And backing up an amazing meal with a high-end port from the few dinners that I've had, I can't remember that port much.
Okay.
You know, I'm full on dessert or steak and probably a couple bottles in.
So would you rather have a dessert wine?
No.
He's telling
I'm
you
just
he's
telling
had a
you,
few cocktails and a lot of wine.
You're over the top.
Yeah, my
But that's
experience
cool.
with port is very small. That's why it's Andy's project, but I'm going to help him out with the fermentations.
But that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to love everything. And
You can't. I can't live everything.
If 5 years from now, Rob, you come back and he loves it, awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. If he doesn't, more bottles for us.
Yeah, right. Fuck him.
But
Kind of what I was thinking.
But all day, if you want to talk about reductive winemaking, let's talk.
And
That's
we'll
what I'm
end it
all
on that
about.
note.
That's some fun shit.
No, guys, we've been going at this for going on 2 hours. So great conversation, a lot of fun to do.
So edit it down to about 25 minutes and get the best stuff and run with it.
Michael, there's no best stuff.
Hey, guys, I appreciate you coming on, talking about what you guys are doing over here in this region in Texas.
Hey, thank you
at
for
the winery.
Thank you for coming out here. We had a
Yeah,
blast.
this has been a lot of fun. And listeners, if you guys haven't been over here, I know a lot of us like to get over to the Texas wine country. If it hasn't been on your list of places to stop by, definitely put it on the list and get by here. You won't be disappointed.
Wednesday.
What is
The
Wednesday?
big race. The big race.
The big race.
Sorry, the compression is just, I can't help myself.
He's already
You
cut,
love it, don't
I'm
you?
pretty sure he
love
cut
it.
you off.
Dude's going to
already.
apply for a radio job here.
I
pretty
think
soon.
so. He's proud of his voice.
I love it.
We still have like 4 bourbons to go. Awesome.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to this episode of Food, Wine, and Whiskey in Your Own Backyard. And until our next episode, enjoy your next pour.
Cheers.
You rock, Rob.
That'll be your first 5 minute. He's going to edit.